Commission to order. It's Thursday, March 28th, 2024. We'd like to excuse Member Miller from the conference tonight. I will offer a word of prayer, and after which I'd ask you to stand and join me in the pledge of allegiance. Father in heaven, we give you praise tonight. We are so grateful for the many blessings of your life. I pray these that we will enjoy the bounties of life that we have. We're especially grateful for the nourishment that we receive in this season. We are grateful for this peaceful valley, for the good people who live here. We ask at this time that our minds might be clear, so that we may have an understanding of our responsibilities as we review these applications tonight. And we say this in the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Motion? Okay, I have a motion by Member Bass to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
A second by Member Little. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Since there are four tonight, I will be voting. Declaration of conflicts of interest. Any agenda item? Seeing none. Move on to public comment time. Tonight, we have two administrative items that do not have public hearings, so if you wish to speak on the Heights at Whisper Ridge or the Scotsman Center storage units, now would be the time to do that. We have two public hearings, a Smith rezone and a utilities text amendment that have their own separate public hearings. So if you have a comment regarding those two items, we ask that you wait until the public hearing for those items. So now would be your time if you have anything to say or to address the county commission. Does not have to be regarding the agenda. If you can come up to the lectern and state your name. Seeing none, no public comment, we will move on to item number 6. This is the Heights at Whisper Ridge.
Thank you and good evening, Madam Chair and members of the Planning Commission. Administrative item number 6 on tonight's agenda is the Heights at Whisper Ridge Plat Amendment. Application number 23.091. The applicant being Craig North in the audience tonight, Madam Chair, and the location of the project starting at around approximately 6183 North Strawberry Creek Road and affecting two plats, the Whisper Ridge at Stone Canyon Phase 1 subdivision PRUD plat, and then the Heights at Whisper Ridge subdivision, recently recorded in October, I believe, Madam Chair. And the acreage affected is 2.45 acres. The current zoning is RR1, rural residential, 1 acre minimum, with the general plan designation being a mixture of rural residential 1 acre, or rural residential 1 is what it's called, and natural resources and recreation. Essentially, this is a collection of lot line adjustments, kind of packaged in one plat amendment proposal, and I believe there's the removal of one easement as part of this request. Specifically, that's a utility easement for a storm drain. And again, that's proposed to be removed from the plat per the applicant's request. Otherwise, I can answer any questions you may have. I'm using my time. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any questions for staff? I have a couple.
The unused easement on Lot 201 is still on the plat we have in our packet. I don't know if there's an updated plat. If not, that can be a condition.
I recommend maybe the applicant speak to that, because the way it was explained is that easement was there on the plat, the original plat, and then it's no longer needed. The utility easement ended up going a different direction, and so that particular storm drain easement is needed, but I'm not sure about whether it's there on the plat or not.
Okay,
The new amendment, that is.
okay, and then what about talk with Josh, the affidavit? We talked about amending plat notes. How do you want to address that?
The affidavit of plat amendment, and like we discussed, that section was deleted out, and all amendments are handled through the PC zoning district now. I don't know if that got into the text amendment that was done for the PC zoning district. I can check that. However, I can have the applicant sign at the time of recordation an affidavit stating that plat notes changed.
Okay. Okay. Well, for staff, if not the applicant.
Good evening.
All right. Like I said, the plat in our packet still has that unused easement.
Yes,
On it.
and perhaps I worded that incorrectly in the application. Really, the plat is just removing the setback or adjusting the setback that would allow for the pipe to get into the easement there. And since we're not using the easement, the setback could just go to what the rest of the lots had, with that just 10-foot side setback. I'd love to remove the easement. In talking with the engineer, the county engineer, he recommended we leave the easement in place and just have it maintained by the lot owner, rather than going through the process of having to abandon an easement.
So I can be clear, the amended plat shows the setback has changed.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes. There was that corner, the southeast corner there was a little extra setback than what we really needed there. And so when the pipe went the other direction, it gives the lot owner just a little bit more workable space.
So I just clarify, this is lot 201?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
And the affidavit of amending plat notes, you're okay with that?
Yes, I don't have a problem with
Till we
that.
get
Yep.
the road straightened out.
And one thing I don't know if I was looking at the other plat also, the part 2 of the. Yes. The second piece of the amendment, I was proposing to move that lot line 30 feet to the north. In reviewing with folks that have already bought lots there in the neighborhood, decided that everybody's in favor of leaving that lot line where it is now. So we'll take that part out of the amendment. The only thing affecting that area is I do want to convert lot 231 to open space. And that was in the original application. It was just with 30 feet less on the south border there.
The 231 would be actually bigger.
Yes,
And
it'll
what-
be bigger than what is in the application
But go with the original size of.
of the lot. Yep, exactly.
Any other questions for the applicant? The only request is that the condition be added, that the requirement of an affidavit of amending plat notes be submitted. No more discussion
Say that again, Debbie, requirement of an affidavit for
of amending plat notes.
plat amendments to the Whisper Ridge at Stone Canyon Phase 1 subdivision PRUD plat, and the Heights at Whisper Ridge subdivision PUD plat, amending several lot lines and removing easement application number 23.091, located in approximately 6183 North Strawberry Creek Road in Mountain Green Basin, for findings listed in the staff report, with one additional finding that an affidavit for the plat amendments is included.
Okay, many plat notes. I have a question. In that motion, it talks about removing an easement. And since
I would leave the motion as is.
Okay.
And then between now and the county commission meeting, I'll follow up with the county engineer to determine. Shouldn't hold up the.
okay, I have a motion by member Bass
Second.
and a second by member Little. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Next item is the Scotsman Center Storage Units Site Plan.
Good evening. This item is file number 23.047 for the Scotsman Center Storage Unit Site Plan. Staff has reviewed this application. We presented it to you at the last meeting. At that meeting, there was some question about standing seam versus corrugated metal. The item was then continued for me to review the code and to look at the differences between standing seam and the metal that they were proposing. After reviewing the code and going through the code with the county attorney, I can go through that with you right now. Let me bring that up on the screen. So the section of the code, building materials for commercial design standards, has 4 bullet points. The first is the majority of each facade, 51% or more of the wall area excluding windows and doors, shall be constructed of the following hard surface building materials: brick, stone, treated or split-face decorative block, CMU, fiber cement siding, and panels, wood, concrete, or other durable building materials as approved by the Planning Commission. Item number 2 says stucco, EIFS, or untreated concrete block, CMU, may be allowed by the Planning Commission as an accent or secondary material only. Number 3 says the Planning Commission may approve metal as an exterior building material on a case-by-case basis if an applicant can show that the type of metal is of a high grade and provides architectural quality to a building. And number 4 says vinyl siding and standing seam are prohibited for use. In my review, the proposed metal does not fit the definition of standing seam. They're both sheet metal, but the way they're fastened together is different, and our code specifically calls out standing seam as opposed to sheet metal. So strict interpretation of the code would indicate that what they're proposing is not standing seam. And so I would take you back to item number 1, which says the majority of each facade, 51% or more, excluding windows and doors, shall be constructed of the following hard materials. In that list, it doesn't specifically say metal, but I think it would be hard for the for staff or planning commission to argue that metal is not a durable building material. And then if you go to number 3, the planning commission may approve metal on a case-by-case basis. So between item number 1 and item number 3, it will be up to you to decide if what they're proposing for their buildings meets the code requirements for commercial design standards. With that, I can turn it over to the county attorney if you have questions, or the applicant to talk to you about what they're proposing.
So they're calling this what?
The type of metal, it's not corrugated. It had a different name to it, but it wasn't standing seam. Do we have a copy of that we can bring up? I think they were uploaded to Civic Review, were they not?
So as he's looking for that, in reviewing the code, so number 1 is the mandatory where it says shall be constructed of, and then it lists a number of building materials. Metal is not specifically listed, but where it says or other durable building material, so that's the first question, is to determine whether what they're suggesting is a durable building material. And then subparagraphs, or the second and third, say these are mays, so it's permissive. So they may be able to use metal if it's approved by the county commission. And then 4 is a prohibition, and that's the one that says you can't use the standing seam. And so what they're presenting here, and as they scroll down, you'll be able to determine, okay, is this standing seam? Because if it is standing seam, then it would be prohibited. But I think what Josh will explain now is that it's not standing seam, and now you have to make the determination, is it durable, number 1, and do you authorize the use of metal?
The other thing is it does talk about the 51%, so you'll have to determine if they are required to have some other material on there as well along with the metal. That'll be up to you to determine. What they're proposing is that PBR. I can't read it from here. The bearing R panel. That's the metal. Thank you. Purlin bearing R panel. If you scroll down to the next page, keep going. Yeah, standing seam is how it's locked together. And it's kind of crimped. So technically, according strict reading of our code, this is not standing seam. So.
Okay, do you have another picture? And so what's the 51? Can you go back to the 51%? Is it that it could be less than or more?
It says the majority of each facade shall be constructed of the following hard surface building materials.
Durable, at least 51%.
I'd be okay with that, PBR stuff.
So are we in agreement that that is a durable material, the metal?
Yeah, I would.
It's durable, but I'd still go back to the spirit of what they were trying to say. I don't have a problem with metal myself, but I'm trying to make it look attractive. I don't have a real problem with putting a wainscot of some kind or another up below it.
I kind of agree. I don't think 100% metal building meets the intent of our code.
Well, we obviously can choose that if we want.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying back to you. Why did we put it in the code in the first place?
So you're saying like a wrap around the bottom and then have the metal like on the top?
Well, yeah, that's just a suggestion. I'm sure there's lots of different ways to do it, but I'm just looking at the 51% requirement. In my mind, they're trying to say, let's make it work.
I think the Scotsman Center itself, maybe we'll get the applicant up here, has some stone looking along the bottom. Please state your name.
Shad Guffey, Scotsman Center. After the last time we met, this is the original building, and it's got the same PBR metal, and it does have a stone wainscot. And then the dance studio that was built after Phase 1 storage, it also has a stone wainscot, and it's also PBR metal, and of course our storage is all PBR metal. So we we wanted to propose the PBR metal, but also the stone wainscot to keep that theme. If you'd scroll down to the stone sample, and that would be along the public roadway for the public to see, along the back of one of the new 6 buildings, and then we would add it to phase 1, even though we're not required to, just to keep the consistency of the current buildings. That's what we would propose. And then there's 3 colors of metal. It's not just monotone. You may show them those 3 colors, and it's the same 3 colors that we have there on site already. It's the green trim, the taupe doors, and kind of a lighter color, grayish taupe. One of the pages he's going to show us the colors. But we just like to keep everything consistent. Match the new 6 buildings with the existing 7 buildings, and then add that stone facade along the public roadway to keep it consistent.
So Shad, you're not saying go around the whole building, you're saying just one side of the building? Is that what you're saying?
Along the public roadway.
That's it though, just one side of the 4 sides.
Right. The rest of the sides of the buildings are mostly doorways.
Yeah.
And to chop it all up with rock.
I was just making sure what you were saying.
So just along the back side of the buildings that are along the Cotton Canyon Road.
So can I ask you, what does a 51% look like to you? How do you change that to match that percentage if you had to do that? Have you thought about that at all?
Well, we read that one of those building materials needs to be 51% or more. And 100% metal. If you conclude that metal's durable, you could go to 100%. We're softening that a little bit by adding the cultured stone to match our other buildings along the roadway. That's what we're proposing.
So, Josh, can I ask you a question? What does it look like to you, 51%? Give me a view of that, a vision of what that looks like.
Yeah, there's a rendering.
So the code has statements that all sides are supposed to receive architectural treatment, not just one-sided. The 51% does say that they can exclude all windows and doors, and a lot of the buildings, they're storage buildings, so the doors take up quite a bit. But I think the intent of the code is that there be a large amount of one material, like 51% or more, but there's supposed to be other materials to break it up. That's my reading of it. The intent wasn't just for solid metal or solid brick.
So I'm curious, Shad, are these rock fascias you're showing us as an example of what you'd like to do? Are they just panels, or are they actually masonry applied? How does that work?
They're cultured stone, so cast stone, but they're individual.
Do they go on over the metal?
So we'll take the metal down to the stone. We'll have a substrate that the rock would adhere to, cultured stone would adhere to, much like you'd see on a home.
Are they a lot more pricey than metal?
Metal's a little bit more right now. This metal, this particular quality of metal is a little bit more.
So it wouldn't be a big deal to do more of that.
Well, cultured stone, it's probably 6s, maybe just a little more. Metal would be just a little more than the cultured stone, from a cost perspective. Anybody else?
Questions?
So, kind of what I hear Steve talking about is what percentage is going to be the metal versus the stone, and maybe we could use the measurements from the main building instead of giving a specific percentage, say from the ground up 36 inches has to be the stone, and then the other stuff could be the metal.
That's kind of what I think as well, Haley. But my question to you is, we're only dealing with one side. They're only proposing one side of the building, the side that showed. The requirement, according to the code, as I understand it, is for the whole building to have that.
Right.
So what are you saying to me? Are you saying that we,
So I would say, so because of the way that the picture is, or at least the buildings are gonna be, for sure the backside and the two ends, but maybe not necessarily between every single door. So on the short sides and the long back side, put the wainscoting around so many inches up, and then put the metal with the rest of the way, so it's on four sides.
that would be more palatable to me. That's kind of what I think as well.
Yeah, we don't have the measurement.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you could just say it has to match the Scotsman.
Scotsman Center.
Hudson Center and the studio, I think they're about 3.5 feet. But we can match it. Okay.
Match the center. So,
So what is it that so we are approving that type of metal?
that's, first, I think we determined metal's durable. And then number two, are we authorizing the use of PBR siding?
But also my question is, in here somewhere, does it talk about wainscoting?
Our motion will have to make that,
It's
that'll be a
just
condition.
percentage of the facade.
Yeah, but we'll have to make a condition that we'll put the cultured stone wainscot. Consistent with the Scotsman Center.
On 3 sides?
Well, on the ends of the road, I don't know how to describe it, be the ends,
It'd be the 2 short ends and the one back
and
side.
the wrong backside in. On the road, on the public road. So it's public road, not their access road.
Well, either way, it doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, but
It's 2 short and 1 back side,
one backside.
regardless of where it sits on the lot, right?
As long as it faces the road.
But it faces the road, the backside does. According to their site plan.
So I was looking at this,
Oh, this is the,
but then whereas if there's doors on
on those. So you're talking the short sides in the back,
this right here,
just this road, back of that one.
so right here,
Uh-huh. And then along the short sides.
right here.
There's a road in between each of these individual units.
These roads.
Doors.
Oh, so
Those are the
right
short
here.
sides, yes.
What's right here, is that all or is it just open?
It's open. Pardon?
Yeah, please. The conditions.
You, okay. On all sides
No,
without doors?
Metal is we're approving the metal, the PBR.
PBR count.
That we authorize the use of the PBR metal siding.
There's a wainscoting.
A cultured stone wainscoting. Yeah.
wainscoting.
He's the contractor.
Don't have a spelling for some.
WAINS. One word.
That match the parent buildings.
Any more? That is our responsibility.
Okay, Madam Chair, can we make a motion?
Sure.
Wait.
Did you want to define just along the one building that faces the road, or on all 6 buildings? Did you want to define that further? We were proposing just the one building that's exposed to the public roadway. Happy to do all 3 sides of that, where there's no doors, or the one side, the other, and the north side has no doors, the south side has no doors, so it'll be 3 sides of that. The other buildings are all doors.
I mean, how would you feel
Can you
though,
pull up
going
page
down the road, and the first one would have that short side with wainscoting, then the rest of them wouldn't, and
Down our driveway,
down your
Uh-huh.
driveway.
Well-
Those ends.
those are all users of the property. It wouldn't be a public thoroughfare or anything. I'm okay with it, but it's up to you.
I would say each of those buildings on the end, the south. The south.
The south end.
The south end along the
But not-
drive. Two of the buildings have doors on the south end, but 3 don't. 4, let's see, 4 don't. And that would look nice. We could do that too.
Let's say yes to those.
Thank you.
Just the south end, is that what we're agreeing on? With what's
Well,
on the road?
Originally, so my thoughts were that it was gonna be both of the short sides, but that one short side is just a. What is right here? This side's nothing.
Nothing.
What's on the other side?
Browning. Fields. Cows.
But eventually it's not gonna be. So I would almost say do the front and back, this north and south side.
Were they the ones that have doors on them or not have doors? I'm not sure what you're looking at.
I'm looking at, this part right here. So here's their driveway to the Scotsman Center, and I'm talking about the back of these.
wainscot on all three sides of the building that don't have doors. That meets the purpose of the code, point of the code. We're trying to make it look good. Shad can say that it would be industrial or commercial, maybe, but there's no guarantee Shad will keep it.
I would think the
Or just
north
on
and
the-
the south side, and then the wall is next to Commons.
It's facing the, back into the public road.
Cottonwoods, Canyon Road.
Along in the Is that what you intend to say?
South and
That
north.
there's wainscoting on all facades without doors. I don't think,
Without overhead doors.
Yeah,
I'm
just
saying.
without doors. To me, it's really specified north and south.
because if it's on all facades without doors, then it's for the north and south.
Along the road. So we ready?
Yeah. I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I move that we recommend approval to the County Commission for the Scotsman Center Storage Unit Site Plan, application 23.047, allowing for the proposed commercial development property at 5859 North Cottonwood Canyon Road in Mountain Green, based on the findings and with the conditions listed in the staff report dated March 28, 2024, and the following conditions. 1, the Planning Commission authorized the use of PBR panel metal siding, that there is wainscoting on all facades without doors that match the parent Scotsman buildings.
Okay, I have a motion by member Little and a second by member Bath. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item is the Smith rezone.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Smith rezone is application 24.012. The applicant being Bart Smith, who's present in the audience tonight. The project location is at 588 North Highland Drive. 5880 North Highland Drive. The current zoning is an overwhelming amount of agriculture on 3 separate parcels, with a bit of split zoning designation for R120 and R110. And again, those are minor portions of two of the parcels. The general plan has this lot as the village low density residential designation. The acreage combined between those 3 parcels is 3.57 acres. And the request tonight, Madam Chair, is to rezone from R120, and again a split zone designation of R120, R110, and A20 to R120 completely. County staff recommends approval of the requested zoning map amendment. And just for clarification, there's not an amendment or a request to amend the future land use map tonight. It works already. And so I can answer any questions you may have. Along with Josh, thank you.
Any questions for staff? Do we have any Any questions for the applicant? Before we go into public hearing.
I don't know.
Madam Chair, I move we go into public hearing.
Is there a motion to go to public hearing?
Second.
A second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We're now in public hearing. Now's the time to come up if you have a comment to make regarding the Smiths rezone. You come to the lectern and state your name. Seeing
Chair, I
none.
move to public hearing.
Motion by member Mass to go out of public hearing.
Second.
I'll give a second to member Wilson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Planning Commission have any discussion for a motion?
What were the lots around it? The R120?
Lots to the north and west are R120. The lots across the street to the west directly are R120. The lots to the south and southeast are R110. Also, the future land use map does show village low density for the entire parcel, and village low density is 2 lots, 2 dwelling units per acre, which is exactly what R120 is.
No more discussion? Ready for a motion?
Madam Chair, I move forward a positive recommendation to County Commission for the Smith rezone application number 24.012, changing 3.57 acres from R120, R110, A20, R120, completely based on the findings listed in the staff report dated March 28, 2024.
We have a motion by member Wilson. Have a second?
I'll second.
Second by member Little. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The next item is the utilities text amendment.
Approximately 6 weeks ago, staff was directed by the county commission to amend the utility section of the code, which is section 155.429, to increase the number of lots within a subdivision that could be on well and septic. Our current code restricts the number of lots that can be on well and septic to 8 lots. In discussion with the county commission at a work session, my recommendation at the time was to increase it to 10 across the board, because 10 lots is the split between small subdivisions and large subdivisions. That is still my recommendation, that that we increase the number of lots that can be on a well and septic in a subdivision to 10, because that is 10 or less is a small subdivision, more than 10 is a large subdivision. The county commission asked me to draft the text per zoning, and that each zoning designation above RR1, which is rural residential 1 acre minimum, would receive a 30% increase, which means that rural residential 1 acre zoning would be allowed 10, which is the small subdivision. Rural residential 5 acre would be allowed 13. Rural residential 10 would be allowed 16, or approximately 16, and 820 would be allowed between 18 and 20. I put in 20. Those numbers are their proposal, and that they wanted me to bring that forward. If you have any questions or comments, I can answer those now.
Questions?
Any explanation why they chose 30% and just throw it out there?
I'll let the county attorney answer that.
Well, I don't know if I'm the best answer because I missed that meeting,
Oh, that's right.
unfortunately.
He was.
But, well,
There was some discussion about 20%.
so no, I think it's fair to say that Well, I also support Josh's recommendation that it just goes to what the small subdivision is, because that's not only congruent with our own code, but it's similar across the state as well. Although this is a legislative item and there is some discretion whether, it's not illegal to adopt something like this, but I don't know that there's a rational basis that's tied to some standard that brings us to that 30%. And so my other concern is I've been traveling around with our public works director is that anytime we're extending county roads through, I guess we would say larger acreage developments, just the surface area to maintain through snow plowing, and then also for just maintaining the roads in general, it can be quite a drain on the county funds or the resources. And there's a lot of roads in the county that are not being able to be maintained because we're limited, or the taxes that we have that go into the fund are from people purchasing gas within the county. And so there is a limited resource of even the money to maintain those roads. And so I'm generally not in favor of going beyond the 10, because I don't see the rational basis that brings us to that number. I think that's just a number that's thrown out. And I think that it extends these public roads that have to be maintained at the expense of the taxpayer. And I think that other taxpayers would subsidize these homes that are spread out that have these roads that are maintained by the county. Because otherwise, as far as the conversation with Josh, you can only put 4 homes on a private lane, and so it would tend to be public roads in these subdivisions. But I can let Josh follow up on that question if he has anything to add.
Well, I don't know how much detail I should go into based on the conversations. It's part of public record, but the county commission directed us with this percentage, so I brought it forward according to what they directed me to bring. But my recommendation is still only 10.
Any more questions for staff?
So your recommendation is how it's in here?
No.
No, I did not include my recommendation in there. I'm giving it to you now. I brought forward what the county commission directed me to bring forward.
So my question, I guess, back is, why do you say just keep it to 10 all the way around?
Because 10 is a rational decision based on other sections of our code already. 10 is the clear break between small subdivisions and large subdivisions. It's outlined in our code. It's discussed in state statute. There's a reason to pick 10. If you go above 10, you might as well go to 30, because 30 is defined in the fire code. If you go above 30, you have to have a secondary access. If you're under 30, single access is fine. So whenever a text amendment is made, there should be a rational basis for why you're making that text amendment, which is why I brought forward what I was directed to bring forward, but my recommendation is 10 across the board.
So remind me why we did 8. I don't remember. I remember talking about it. Exactly why I came to 8. Do you remember?
I don't know why we had 8. In fact, we did have 8 for concept plan as well, and we increased that to 10 last year because of our definition of small subdivision. Because there was a small percentage of small subdivisions that would have to go to both planning commission and county commission for concept plan approval if they were 8, 9, or 10 lots in size, whereas all other small subdivisions were just approved by me for concept plan.
And we used to have 8 as a small subdivision, and then they upped it to 10, but they didn't change everything in the code. to 10 at the time in these sections.
This would be just another update, bringing it from that 8 to 10, and that, I think that's the rational basis for why we would go to that.
So if we want to go,
So you're saying do 10 across the board for RR1, RR5, RR10.
That's what I would recommend.
What about the 30%? I guess I don't understand the 30%.
not do it.
I don't agree with the 30%. I'm not the legislative body though, so I brought you exactly what they directed me to bring you, and I'm putting on the record my disagreement with that.
And I was just clarifying earlier that as a legislative body, you do have discretion. And so if you like the 30%, you can do that. There's nothing that is illegal about changing the code to do this. But I don't think that we can articulate a rational basis that brought to the 30%.
Personally, I don't like the 30% either, so
I don't understand what the 30% is for.
they're increasing the amount
They were
of
just
water.
increasing it with the larger zones.
There's
Oh, that's how they calculated it,
Yes.
Right.
to get the 13, 16, 20.
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
And I think the idea behind it was to somehow preserve more of the rural, saying, well, you know, if we allow the wells and septics, then we don't do a water system. Like, I think that was kind of the basis for doing it. But I think it still goes back to, there's really, you know, if not 10, why not 30? Because that's where the IFC cuts, you know, the secondary fire apparatus access road. And then I think Public Works' concern about having these roads, these massive roads to maintain going through, is a little more worrisome, and I think it is inequitable or disproportionate to the tax base, where certain areas of the county may be subsidizing the road maintenance in other areas of the county where the taxes from those homes will not support snow removal, let alone surfacing those and maintaining those roads.
So I would rather keep it 10. Is that kind of everybody's consensus?
well, this is the commission's recommendation, so whatever
Well, right,
we.
so my question is do we do a positive recommendation and add the findings that we wanna go back to 10, or
No,
do we
it
do
should
a
be
negative recommendation?
Well, they're asking for more. They're saying from 8 to 10.
Based on Exhibit A, we would be doing a negative recommendation.
You could make a
We'd have to
recommend.
rewrite the motion.
Yeah, so there'd be two motions you would make. The first motion would be to recommend denial of what's proposed, but a recommendation of approval to set it at 10 instead of 8. So it does need to be raised because there is some inconsistency. Right now it's at 8. No other place in our code that has 8. It has 10. So I think it should be raised to 10, but I think the rational basis for 10 is there, whereas I don't see the rational basis for 30%.
And we haven't held the public hearing yet.
Madam Chair, I move to go into public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion by Member Bass and a second by Member Little to go into public hearing. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Now it's time for public hearing. Seeing none, I'm ready for a motion to move out of public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Member Bass, second by Member Little. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay, now,
Can you go back to the motion page, please?
So if I understand this once again, so this is basically for non-public drinking water, right? So if it gets,
So any subdivision where there's not a water system that's available or proposed, They typically go to wells and septic. Heather Meadows is a good example of that. They went wells and septics. There was a water system there, but it wasn't available. Their
Is
problem.
that the one behind?
Yeah, there were other problems with that dragged it out for 5 years.
But it was proposed, and because our code is in the disjunctive, it's like, well, if it's available or proposed, and then it became available, but then, I mean, it was, there was a lot more that went into that, but typically you would just hook into whatever the water system was if it's available or proposed. Otherwise, you can go under B1. B2 is where it says where it's available or proposed, you have to meet these requirements. But if you're under our current code, 8 lots or less, then you can do the wells.
Yeah. So
Okay, so
any subdivision going forward, right now, if they come in and they want to do 10 lots or 14 lots or however many lots they want to do, and there's no water system, we tell them when they submit their concept plan, it's not going to work. You can only do 8. So I don't know where the 8 came from. I think it should be 10 because our concept plan is set at 10. Small subdivisions are set at 10. There's a rational basis for setting it at 10.
So your suggestion is that we take all of B1A out and we just amend it to say 10 instead of 8 and leave it how it was?
My recommendation, yes, is to leave it as it is, cross out 8 and make it 10.
Leave it as it is, not in the exhibit, but in the current code.
In the current code.
In the exhibit, yes, you would be taking out B1A and changing 8 to 10.
So did I understand, Josh, that you're saying that under 10, they can still use, well, if they apply for 10, they're forced to use whatever systems are there.
Yeah, right now, if they submit
Right
a
now,
sm-
that's the way it is.
if they submit a small subdivision right now and they're proposing 9 lots, they are required to connect to a water system or provide their own water system, or reduce the number of lots they're proposing to 8.
So how does that work when we say you should need 10 and you need to connect with the water system, and the water system that exists says, yeah, we're not interested?
So
Well, ability would have to do with their capacity, right? So if the water system doesn't have the capacity, wouldn't they go to septics?
well, they would have to redo their subdivision to go, because if you connect to a water system and they're available, that you technically, because you're connecting to one municipal service, you can go to R120 or half-acre lots and still be on septic. So if you're connecting to a water system, you can be on septic and you can go to 20,000 square foot lots. But if they propose to be on a water system and that water system says we're not available, then they would modify their proposal and it would have to meet B1, which means right now they could only do 8 lots and then they'd be going on well and septic.
So they still have that option.
Yeah, the change that I'm proposing, if it just goes to straight 10, it would allow them to go up to 10 on well and septic, because that's the breakup for a small subdivision.
And staff's gonna say, if you don't make that, you're back to septic. You got
Yeah,
that
if
option.
they're proposing more than that, like 14 or 18 or 20, and they go to a water system and the water system says we're not available, then they're going to have to redraw their concept plan back down to whatever our code says you can have on well and septic.
Which is one less than 10.
Right now it's 8.
That's what I'm
will be
asking,
10.
where will it go?
It'll go to 10. That's what I'm hoping. The county commission directed me to present what I presented to you, where it depends on your zoning.
Okay, so moving a negative recommendation for,
Are we gonna do negative or are we gonna do positive in removing B1A? So you think that's?
personally, I think that it should be negative and not, and then make a
Another
second
motion?
motion.
Does the attorney have?
Both will do what you're wanting to do. So you could have them, we make a positive recommendation if B1A is removed. and we set it to 10, but you could also do, we are making a negative recommendation for how it's phrased right now, but we would make a positive if. I think either way works. It's just how you decide to communicate it.
Madam Chair, I move that we forward a negative recommendation to the county commission for the revision of Morgan County Code Section 155.429 to adjust the number of lots allowed within the subdivisions on wells and septics based on the list, or the text listed in Exhibit A of the staff report. And the findings would be that we,
Maybe that the 30% multiplier has no rational basis? Isn't that why we're,
well, because the breaks are at 10 and 30, right? The breaks are at 10 and 30, so
Both of those, yeah, I mean.
the 13, 16, and 20, there's arbitrary numbers.
And
And
the
that-
10 is more aligned with the small subdivision.
Right.
So both of those findings.
So if you continue based on the following findings, it could be, as you've been discussing, that the 30% multiplier,
has no
or we
rational-
found no rational basis to justify the 30% multiplier.
Can you add those in?
no
the
rational
findings.
basis? Yeah, that's one of the findings.
I know, you know how we usually type them up.
Oh, you're asking Jeremy. Find no rational basis. Multiplier.
The 10 is consistent with the small subdivision. 10 lots is,
Fast typer.
Are you satisfied?
and I would almost put the first one first, or the second one first, that the biggest reason is the 10 to make it consistent with the small subdivisions, and then where the heck did the 30% come from?
So you're okay with those two findings for the negative recommendation? Okay. All in favor again?
So maybe before you make it final, I can't think of anywhere in our code where it talks about recommendations. And so I think that it should be one recommendation, and whether you do like a negative recommendation and it's because of this, but then also you don't say that we want it to be 10. So you're kind of just denying it, and it'd leave it at 8 if it was just a complete negative recommendation. So I'm sorry, I'm kind of thinking out loud here that perhaps it would be a positive recommendation with the following corrections, that we go with 10 because of those findings, because then you've got a negative and a positive, and I don't see in our code where it says recommendations plural. You just provide one recommendation, whether it's positive or negative.
How does that sound to you, Josh, for presenting it to the council?
So we add the one correction and then the following findings.
I'm okay with that. If the county attorney feels that that's the way to go, then that maybe go that way.
You might
Could you
clarify
just-
from 8 to 10.
Can you just say using the current code?
Yeah. I don't think you need to write that. I think you can do
It
what
should be-
Commissioner Bass was suggesting.
The corrections would be to stick with the current code, with the exception of amending out 8 and putting 10 lots.
That's what he's doing, the removing. We have to remove
I know, but the table's not on the original,
Yeah,
is it?
I would delete that entire thing, like she suggests, and write to keep the current code, with the exception of removing 8 and raising it to 10. Does that work for you?
And then keep the finding that 10 is consistent
Yeah.
with the small subdivision and delete number 2.
No,
No, I'd keep it
I
too.
keep it in.
I think you can keep
Yeah. Are we okay with that?
I was super for that we do a negative recommendation.
With the, you follow the attorney's. You wanna, we had a motion in a second, but we didn't vote. Did we get a second? No, so died for lack of a second. So, ready for a motion.
Everyone's good with that wording, right? Okay. Madam Chair, I move we forward a positive recommendation to County Commission for revision of Morgan County Code Section 155.429 to adjust the number of lots allowed within subdivisions on wells and septics based on the text listed in Exhibit A of the staff report dated March 20, 2024 with the following correction. Number 1, to keep the current code language with the exception of removing 8 and changing the number to 10. And the following findings, 10 lots is consistent with the definition of a small subdivision from the Morgan County Code. And 2, the planning commission finds no rational basis for moving forward with 30%.
Okay, I have a motion by member Wilson. Is there a second? A second by member Bass. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Now we're on to business staff questions. The only thing I kind of want is that commercial design standards to be tightened up, so we don't deal with metal siding on future commercial buildings in Mountain Green, maybe. Just
If you want to
Verify.
direct staff to bring a text amendment that would clarify and clean it up, you can do that.
do you need a motion?
I would prefer one, yeah.
So are you talking what we did today? Right?
Cleaning it up so that we don't get all metal buildings attempted in Mountain, yeah, well, any of the commercial zones, which is mainly Mountain Green a little bit. Peterson Croydon. So, a motion to direct staff to make changes to the commercial design standards. To remove any ambiguities.
Yeah, do we wanna also, yeah, that's fine. And then when we talk about it, we can talk about maybe including that RBF on the, or no, PBR on the. Sorry.
It's all right. I think that would be the clarification that would be needed. Let's clearly define what metal is considered architectural and what is not.
What is not.
Right.
Okay, so we have a motion to direct staff to tighten up the design standards. Is there a second? Second by member Wilson. That was a motion by member Bass. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
That was a motion by me?
Yep.
Oh.
I called for a motion and you started talking.
What's the plan with the planning commission going forward? Like as far as,
So you're just asking about the referendum that was filed, right?
oh, I wasn't asking about that.
Oh,
I
okay.
was asking about, they went to a 5-person commission appointed by each of them plus 2 at large, right?
So a 7-member commission, but yeah. So it's still a 7-member commission, but it'd be
But the,
set
they
up
each,
5 and 2.
But they each get to pick their own person.
That's right. Well, they get to nominate, and then it has to be approved by the commission.
Does that nomination have to come from their district area? Or does it?
No,
Yeah, what are the districts?
there's not a district. It's just it's really they're all at large, but 5 are selected or nominated by each commissioner, and then 2 are at large.
So theoretically, 5 people from Mountain Green could be on the, 7 people from Mountain Green could be on the planning commission. Or
Theoretically.
Croydon, or
Milton.
That's right.
really. Okay. And we have to apply for the at-large,
Right.
As it is written now.
and the timeline is May.
Well, there is a pending referendum on the text amendment, and so, but as of right now, or under the code, the state code, it goes into effect and it's suspended upon gathering signatures. So if the signature gathering is successful, then it can be suspended until it goes to vote. It could be on the November ballot. I think April 10th, I don't have the code memorized, but I think it's around April 10th or 15th. If it came in before that date, then it could get on the same year. Otherwise, it would go at the next general election unless there's agreement by the parties to do it sooner.
So for now, it's business as usual.
For now, the law doesn't go into, yes, it's business as usual until the law goes into effect with whatever date, I don't know with the ordinance when the effective date is, but if the signatures are gathered and turned in, then it suspends the effectiveness of that ordinance until it goes to vote. So yes, business as usual for now. But it's not as simple as that with what's going on through the process.
Okay. Any more questions for staff?
So what do you want me to do? You want me to continue to come here until you get it set up? Or do you want me
I think that would be nice.
If you need me, I'll get out.
I think, yeah, so we can keep a quorum going. Great, thank you. If there aren't any more staff questions, it is approval of minutes. Gotten any of your changes in, Judy, if you have any new ones? Not ready for a motion.
We approve the minutes.
Okay, I have a motion by member Little, a second by member Wilson, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay,
You don't have to abstain just 'cause you weren't here. You read them, didn't you?
Yeah, they're very thorough, which I appreciate.
Just
Chair.
change-
Oh, aye.
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 Unanimous. And we are waiting for adjournment.
So moved.
Motion to adjourn and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Without shame, we're